call this meeting to order at 5:37. And first, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are: at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair or to the Select Board as a whole and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. So, are there adjustments to the agenda?
I believe we have a couple.
Okay.
So the flag policy, which the Equity and Inclusion Committee is bringing up tonight.
Okay.
And the sidewalk grant request by the Planning Commission. Those are both unfinished business.
Okay, so we'll put them, oops, unfinished. So they'll be, I'm putting them in the wrong place. They're gonna be D and E.
Yes.
Under unfinished business. Okay, are there other adjustments to the agenda? Anybody from the Select Board? Adjustment? Okay, then can I hear approval of minutes for May 17th, 2023 and May 24th, 2023, which was the special meeting work session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of May 17th, 2023 and May 24th, 2023. Is there discussion among the board? Any changes?
We have two hands up already.
Okay.
Swift.
Do we have any changes among the Select Board? Swift?
Mine is not urgent. The proposal on the flag policy is very related to the Pride Month statement, so I don't know if you want to put it further up on the agenda, because those feel very connected. But
They're actually completely different. One's asking for a formal policy, so we need to have a
Great.
separate discussion on that. Mr. Fairman? Mr. Fairman?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. The minutes of our Town of Putney Select Board special meeting dated May 24th, 2023, state that I cited false information regarding permissible expenditures of our $737,000 ARPA grant. I was quoting verbatim the 44-page U.S. Department of the Treasury official Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds overview of the final rule dated January 2022 that is unlikely to have been contradicted by the 435-page final rule when the same officials wrote both. I am studying the final rule and shall share what it says in due course so that everyone is fully informed about our options instead of merely page references to a document that no one present had read. I respectfully request that these minutes be amended as per what I have just said, which could be as simple as replacing rebut with question. For the public record, I shared with you all a few days ago a breaking Associated Press wire story citing the National League of Cities, quoting federal officials that our municipal ARPA grant is safe from any clawback consequent to the federal debt ceiling controversy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody feel the need to make that change?
could you read?
Can you tell me what the change is?
I think it's because Jeanette White did rebut Mr. Fairman with references to the following pages. I'm fine with that language. It doesn't say anybody was citing false information. It's just,
Madam Chair.
Mr. Fairman, I'm talking, please, thank you. So it doesn't, so I don't have any issue with that particular word, but if anybody wants to change it, we can. I know, we all have an understanding of the final rule as it pertains to towns that took the standard allowance, and we have had much robust advice from various sources that tell us that that is, in fact, what Jeanette was rebutting was in fact true. So I don't have an issue with that. Does anybody want to change it?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Fairman?
My purpose was to create a public record, and I have done so. So I shall simply note that when rebut refers to information, it refers to demonstrating that the information is incorrect. You assert this is the case. This will come up further during your ARPA discussion, where I will tell you about something I've been working on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any thoughts, Charlie?
Fine.
Any thoughts on that?
You got a legal background, what do you think?
No, I have no thoughts at this point.
Go with it?
So are we good with the minutes as written?
Yeah.
Both sections, both sets? All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Mr. Fairman, you still have your hand up. Do you have another comment?
Sorry, I forgot to lower it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, whoops. So the next piece is public comment on items not on the agenda. Is there public comment in the room? Is there public comment online? Anything on the select board? All right, moving along to warrants to the treasurer.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. I have two hands up now, actually. Elizabeth?
I just wanted to follow up on some reports about a little child who was almost hit in the crosswalk at the school. And if there are some laws to show where our police officers are, because they're really not being seen at the school at some critical times. And someone blew through the flashing crosswalk in an Evans construction truck. Karen has been notified, but I just wanted to follow up with that and see, I don't know fully how our contract works with the police, but is there some way we can see if coverage can happen during those really critical times when the children are out walking?
Karen?
I can elaborate. So Bryce Hodson did give me a call. He was in that area and saw, and the lights were flashing. So two cars, a car and the 1-ton, did not stop. I immediately got a hold of the sheriff's department and requested that the deputy, and this is the second time I've requested deputies to be at school in the morning and in the afternoon, and to start writing tickets.
It seems like a no-brainer to me.
So,
It's very specific times.
I'm not the micro police manager,
Yeah,
and, right now, there's all kinds of state construction contracts going on, and a lot of their time is spent doing traffic control. So I will get a hold of Mr. Anderson, because the deputy never did show up yesterday
okay.
at my request. So I'm on top of it. It's very frustrating, and
Would it help if the school got involved?
it might, and who knows, maybe we're gonna need, some sort of security guard there or something.
Yeah, crosswalk. I
Cross,
think that goes, that
yeah,
would
not
go through the
security, but a crosswalk guard.
cross
Yeah.
guard, that would go through the school district, I
Yes.
assume, but,
Yes,
Did anybody notify John Sessions that that happened?
Not sure, I did not, but
Okay.
I'm not sure if Bryce did or not, but this is like, you know, the third time, I mean,
It does sound something like we need to invest in crossing guards there. I mean, Brattleboro
Right.
has 6 million of them, and
right,
they're quite scary sometimes when traffic doesn't do what they want.
yeah.
Can we get that list of when they're in town? I know we talked about having that put on the website. Is that something the select board can get monthly?
We don't get their schedule.
No, but when they show where they've been and how many
Yeah.
hours they've spent in town.
We started putting the reports online.
Yep.
So we are short-staffed right now, so.
Even if we could get a copy in our agenda, just to see, you know, just so we have for our knowledge, just to see what's going on or where they are.
You want more paper?
Yeah.
I mean, they're available, they're in a folder right here. You
Then
can
that's
stop
fine too,
in and
absolutely.
just- Anyone, and I've said that, you
If
know,
that's easier, yep.
they're all in a folder, they're in chronological year order.
Because the last couple
and-
weeks, we just haven't, I mean, I haven't seen them and I'm
Yeah,
in town every day.
yeah,
I think maybe after you spoke with them, they were up there for one day.
right,
I haven't seen them.
And they got
all.
there, you know, they were there after school got out. And it's,
Yeah, they need to be there. If they're gonna be effective, they're
Needs to
gonna
be
need to
early.
be there when all of the traffic and the carpooling
Right.
and all that stuff is happening there, because it gets pretty chaotic.
Well, and I know too, this was like, it was not in the morning, it was in the morning, but it was at like at 11 o'clock or something.
Okay, so it was an off
So it was an
time.
off
All right.
time,
But
but,
even so,
you know, if it was a half a day of school, then still, you know,
yeah, I don't think we've had any.
there's no excuse for it, honestly, and, yeah, I've been battling and it's just, like I said. We have sheriff or deputies that live right here in Putney and.
Okay,
it's
well,
just like,
if we have to have Mr. Anderson come here to
right,
explain himself, then we can do that.
yeah,
Um,
but I'll stay on top of it.
Okay, great. So now I have a bunch of hands up. So let's see, Swift, you've already talked. So I'm gonna go with Heather, Laura, Swift, Elizabeth, and Mr. Fairman. And I'm gonna try to write that down right now so I don't forget what I just said. So I think it's Heather, Laura, Swift, Elizabeth, and Mr. Fairman. Okay, so Heather, you're up.
I just wanted to understand whether or not there's anything we can do about a failure to abide by a contract. I'm all for having a crossing guard, but why pay another person for something somebody's failing to do?
Okay, thank you. Laura?
That was really close to my question. So, and I'm not sure that their contract does dictate hours. So that was more along the lines of like, I'm curious if it's in their contract, if it can be put into their next contract so that you have more teeth when it comes to this.
Okay, thanks for the suggestion.
So can I just make a comment? I did receive their contract
Mhm.
for this next
Next
fiscal year,
fiscal year.
so we can take a look at it
Okay.
together and
Yeah,
make any recommendations for changes.
okay.
It'd be nice if they did have some local deputies, you know, that were close to the area, but, so I think the one around here, the closest one comes from Swansea.
Well, we have two that live right here in Putney,
I don't know, but we get the one out of Swansea.
so.
Okay, that's a staffing issue that I'm
Yeah.
not sure we can control, but Swift?
Just another agenda piece that the Equity Inclusion Committee also prepared a Juneteenth statement that I believe Nate is going to be reading, if that can be added in.
Isn't Juneteenth for our next select board meeting?
Yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna
yes,
list
yeah,
the
let's do it.
next.
Look at
one.
you! Sorry,
Okay, yeah, let's not get ahead of our holidays.
you're on it!
Okay, so I have Elizabeth.
Sorry about the delay. Is it possible for us to, is it lease or those flashing lights, speed things and put them up? We're also experiencing people driving, you know, probably 60, 70 miles an hour on Main Street at night, sort of all hours of the day and night, and maybe investing in, I don't know, speed cameras, or does the sheriff offer that? And I know I personally got a speeding ticket that was done by a camera, and I think they're less expensive than a human. But just some ideas, because it seems like we're really having an uptick in that level of speeding in the village.
Yeah, so I don't know for a fact, but I know, but there's a mobile radar
Speed cart.
yeah, that right now is.
I don't know the name of the thing.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. That there's one that right near Walker's right now, or what there was
Yeah.
a couple days ago. I don't know if it's still there. So in that, you know, the beauty of that is if you move it around, then people pay attention to it. If you just have that sign that, you know, sits there and blinks 25 at you and it's always there, and you forget that it's there. But if you move it around on different streets, then people pay more attention. I've even seen ones that flash blue lights at you if you go too fast. Not that
I don't know, maybe the town could even, is there a grant for something like that, or could we have one that we, our own highway people could move around to sort of stimulate the reality of the speed limit?
I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but we could probably look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second what everyone has said, and of course, walking around, I observe what they have been talking about up at the school. I would offer two observations. The first one is we are paying the Windham County Sheriff's Department to work for us. Somebody mentioned the question of hours. The contract is for a certain number of hours. It would be entirely appropriate to instruct them that we want them to be present at the school running radar when the children are arriving and leaving. Because if the word gets out that you'll get a ticket if you speed through there during that time, people will stop doing it. We all know this when we're out driving. If we know there's a speed trap somewhere, we make sure to watch our speedometers when we are there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so is there any other public comment on items not on the agenda? In the room? Online? On the select board? Okay, so now we're moving on to the warrants to the treasurer. Can I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of the meeting.
A second?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to review, oh my gosh. Approve and execute the warrants upon completion of review. Karen?
Payroll warrant dated for June 2nd, 2023 in the amount of $16,928.24. Smaller payroll this warrant.
Any particular reason?
Not really.
Okay.
Not as many, fire. I think that was lower. It actually was lower. Accounts payable dated May 20th through June 2nd, 2023, in the amount of $65,367.66. So on here you have the Wex Bank, which is the gas cards for highway and fire. We have Dufresne Group, which is the sidewalk project for $8,750. And the other big one is the medical insurance at $18,069.03.
Okay, and I see that the Windham County Sheriff's is on here. Is that our assessment or is that the contract?
That's the contract for both policing and animal control.
Okay. What was Johnson's lettering for?
As for lettering on the new highway truck,
Okay.
And what about Josh Candoit?
that would be Josh Iman. He did some work at the pool for us.
And are there some taxpayers on here too?
No.
Seeing some names.
Jamie, why is that on there? Oh, you know what that is? That is, she did an event at the library.
Okay.
So there were a couple events at the library. Let me just see what else is on here. Why did I just see that? New York Light, no, that's me. Where is it? The New York Times, $2,002 is library.
Alright, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so next is the town manager's report.
Where is that? Sorry, I don't want to keep Justin waiting. All right, so highway, FEMA update. Currently, we received $325,023.50 to date. We are waiting on another $512,170.14. And then from the state ERAF, we're looking at $58,603.55. So this is a slow process.
I guess, that was 2 years ago now, right?
Yep. So July 21st was 2 years ago of the storm. It's just the way it is. These were large projects and, after they changed the rule, these were already in the queue and you couldn't pull them out. So it's unfortunate, but I'm gonna try to be hopeful and optimistic that we might see some of it before the end of this fiscal year, but I haven't heard a thing. I always end up reaching out to them.
Because you had to do it in chunks too, right?
Yeah. So that's where we're at with that.
Well, hopefully it'll come sometime in the next century.
Yeah. So the listers launched the grand list.
Good.
It is up a little bit from last year. I don't have the figures, but I can honestly say it is up a little bit.
Okay.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Pontoon boat, we did not receive any bids.
Okay.
So at this point,
Raffle it off. It's just,
well,
I don't know what we want to do with that.
I think I'm gonna put it on the agenda for either the next meeting or the one, I think we have to have a discussion about it. We can't really do it right now because it's on my report. Pool is being filled, probably as we speak. And, Rick Pettit came down and put another, coat of gel grit on the ramp because kids were slipping last year, so hopefully that helps. And I had to order some supplies for the pool, so we're gonna, hopefully June 17th is opening day. So it's looking pretty good, but we haven't turned it on yet, so we'll see.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. We received a $4,000 municipal energy resilience program grant. So I just got it this week, but that's good news because we can apply that to something with what the task forces are doing. It can be community outreach. It's various other things. It's a small grant, but it's a start.
Okay.
And this can lead to bigger ones too.
Okay.
So we can identify qualified local projects too.
Okay.
So we can apply some of this grant money too.
Okay.
We can
What was it called?
request grant application. What was it called?
Yeah, what was it called again?
Municipal Energy Resilience Program. It's
Okay.
the MERP
Okay,
which Wyndham Regional Commission is assisting towns with.
okay.
So I think it was out there.
And it sounds pretty open-ended, we can kind of use that money for lots of
Yeah.
different things, okay?
Yeah.
All right,
So I'll give you more details in the next meeting, but I just got it, so. And also, I was approached and met with Scott Dixon. He designs skateboard parks, or skate parks. Let's just say skate parks, because
yes, we can use other,
that means more than just skateboards. So I met him up at the ball field.
okay,
And I have received many emails supporting this idea, this concept. And the task force with downtown revitalization got wind of it as well.
okay,
So they kind of want to meet with this person, but I wanted to talk to the board first. What I'd like to do is invite him to the next meeting,
okay.
have him speak to the board, and have a representative from the subgroup here as well. I don't know how this is gonna morph or what it will morph into,
Mhm.
but there is a push for it, and I've heard from parents and kids, and there's a culture out there for.
Closest one is in Brattleboro right now,
Right.
so yeah,
So,
yeah,
with everything that's going on right now, it's something that, you know, we can listen to and see where it goes.
cool,
So
okay,
that's all I have.
all right. Is there, select board questions on the town manager's report?
I have a question about staffing, like what the current status of staffing is.
Staffing for
Town.
here.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there any report on that?
is there any what?
Report on that?
No.
Okay.
So, I'm hoping that, I'm working with Jill Muir, BLCP, so I'm gonna be meeting with her tomorrow. And I'm hoping that I'm gonna have 2 ads to solicit,
Okay,
a full-time person and a part-time person.
okay,
So then I'm on vacation, and hopefully by July, we might have folks.
so you plan to do that really soon?
Yeah,
Okay, cool, all right, nice,
yeah, Kim's taken a lot of the burden, and, so 1.5 people is what I'm looking for. right
okay,
now. There's a lot of different things going on too. It's like, you know, with the tax forces and, you know, it's like, you know, I want the right fit to build the team here
mm-hmm,
so we can support, you know, what's happening right now.
yeah,
But I have to support town hall first. Just so you know, that's my priority.
I would just like to go on record as, I mean, I know you and I talked about it a little bit and about how you're thinking about it, and I just want to make sure that as I think back to the conversations that we've had, I don't remember that communication was clearly articulated in the job breakdown. I want to go on record as saying that I continue to believe that communication between the town and the community is big, and that we need somebody to have that as part of their job description. So I just want to put that out and maybe talk about that some more at a later date.
So and I heard what you said, and I've got it figured out in the admin position.
Great.
That's why I'm gonna bring on a half person as a treasurer. And if they have grant experience, it's even better. But I'm just gonna warn you people right now that, you know, compensation is, you know, gonna be a talking point.
mm-hmm,
So, and I just got done with a session last week about pay equity.
Yep.
And I heard from a lot of different towns
Yeah.
You know, you hire a person at $25 an hour and you got somebody sitting there making $20 an hour.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing fair about that, so.
Yeah. Do what you gotta do. I mean,
Yeah.
people deserve fair compensation and, you know, to some extent you get what you pay for. And so, you know, we want good people and we should pay them. Yeah. Mr. Farman?
Madam Chair, I would like to ask our town manager to give us an update on the Putney Town Hall renovation project.
Yeah.
Oh, I can, yeah, sure, under my town manager's report. So I am meeting with Lisa Papazian and Rich Amore, he's with the state. And he deals with grants. So the three of us are having a meeting tomorrow morning. I reached out to an HVAC company today. I'm waiting for them to get back to me. That was kind of we're at an impasse with HVAC. So.
Why?
So in the update of the figures, we have mini splits, you know, for air and heat.
Yeah.
And being a historical building and being so large, you know, we would have to have several. So we met, Lisa Papazian and I met with Morgan Casella, and he stated that an HVAC specialist, somebody who specializes in it, can give us more options, you know, by walking through the building, and so that's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
You know, whether it's a commercial size system that maybe can be in the back of the building, you know, air and heat to both floors. You know, we have an oil furnace downstairs that just heats the first floor. So we're looking at different options.
Okay.
And we know, you know, climate resiliency is a priority.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at right now, Mr. Fairman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So are there other questions on the town manager's report in the room? On the select board? Online? All right, moving on to boards, committees, and commissions, the Equity and Inclusion Committee Pride Month. Nate, did you wanna?
Yeah, I could do that, or I wasn't sure if Swift wanted to. Either's fine with me.
No, you wrote it, please.
All right. So this is celebrating Pride Month, which is June next month or tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
The month of June is Pride Month, a month in which we celebrate the LGBTQIA+ community. Pride Month started with the Stonewall riots in Manhattan, New York. The police had been raiding bars and clubs in New York, and from June 28th to 1969 to July 2nd, 1969, locals fought back. A year later, the Eastern Regional Conference of Homophile Organizations, ERCO, and the Christopher Street Liberation Day Umbrella Committee organized the march. The event in 1970 became known as the Gay Pride Parade. Vermonters can be proud of Vermont's LGBTQIA+ history. It was the first state to legalize same-sex civil unions in 2000, and then the fourth state to legalize same-sex marriages in 2009. According to Williams Institute at the University of California, Los Angeles, Vermont has the highest rate of same-sex marriages in the United States. This month is a great time to find out about LGBTQIA+ resources and communities in the area. Out in the Open is a nonprofit located in Brattleboro. Their mission statement is building rural LGBTQ+ community, visibility, knowledge, and power. We are a multiracial grassroots movement and capacity building organization based in Wabanaki Territory in Windham County, Vermont, and Waldo County, Maine. There are many events to attend in the weeks ahead. Out in the Open and the Brattleboro Museum and Arts Center are hosting Pride Prom at Gallery Walk on June 2nd, starting at 7:30. On July 14th, there will be a LGBTQIA+ Putney Community Supper at Next Stage at 5:30. The Stone Church in Brattleboro will be having a glam queer dance party and cabaret June 23rd from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m.
All right. Thank you. Is there discussion among the board?
I just have a question about the July Putney Community Supper.
Yes.
Is that part of our monthly community supper?
I believe so. I just received an email about it, so I was like, all right, that's something.
Is that one of, I just didn't know if,
I talked with Lenny, who I know is a part of the board on that. She didn't seem to know about it just yet, but they have a community supper, I think, soon.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So it's not happening in June, instead it's happening in July.
okay.
So this is the one after.
Does anyone know what the regular community supper schedule is? Is it like always the second Friday or
It
something
always,
like
I
that?
think there's an actual schedule, but I don't know what it is.
It is, I'll tell you in a second.
Okay.
I've got it on here.
It always comes as
I
a
believe it's the
surprise.
second Friday.
I think
Okay.
it's the second, but.
The sign goes up and I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah.
So that would make sense then, that the July one.
Yeah, it's the second.
The second.
A second Friday.
Yes.
Okay.
So that means that
The
the
July-
first one, the June one will be next Friday.
Right,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Cool.
Swift?
I just wanted to show you that that these events, from my understanding as a straight person, are designed for the LGBTQ plus IA plus community. So if you are a straight person thinking of going to these events, that you're going in support of that community. That you're not going to go to the queer prom because you want to wear a fancy dress and be silly. Go with friends that are queer and support. This is a month that's about creating safety and loudness in the queer community, and not for straight people to co-opt or wear lots of rainbows just because it's fun. This is, as Nate shared, the history of this. It started with violence and unsafe environments. So we're celebrating the fact that the queer community is safer now, and how do we create spaces where they can be loud and safe and have proms and bashes and all of it. So just sharing that from my perspective as a straight person when I enter those events.
I agree with you 100%, Swift, but I'm curious about the July community supper. That seems like that is on our regular community supper night, and it is something that includes everybody and...
Right, I want that clarity too. I don't know if it's designed in that same way or if it's our regular one.
Well, maybe we could, how do we get that clarity? Will you ask Eleni and get back to us?
Of course.
Great.
Okay. Sorry, I've forgotten your name.
My name, Emily.
Emily, sorry.
Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, and you are
Eileen.
awesome. And what I want to bring up is sort of a nuance, and I think peace means that we all tolerate everybody and everybody's path, and that's part of giving each other space to be who they are. That being said, in talking about safety, there are integrated issues with the gay movement and the involvement of younger and younger children. And I just wonder if you can speak to whether it's unsafe. In my view, it's unsafe to pressure children, and that they ought to have the space to honor their own, whatever they came in as, and have the space, but not be pressured. And additionally, there's another element that I think sort of brushes up against these open expressions of sexuality as a public concern, and that is the incredible incidence of child trafficking that has increased. There are about 2 million children now being trafficked in the US. So I wonder, could you please speak to that part of my concern, that younger children aren't pressured inordinately, and that they won't be at the event, or that they aren't? How do you feel about that, please?
Are you asking the select board, or are you asking?
Asking the, I'm sorry, I can't see your You think?
My name is Eileen.
Nate, thank you.
Nate.
Because I just think it's important to.
As far as I understand with all of these events, no one is being pressured into attending, including children. So I don't know how to further answer your question beyond that.
Okay, but are we creating an environment of, a general environment of, for sort of increasing the children having to focus on sexuality, what their sexual nature is, even before they have a chance to experience theirs? That's a concern of mine. That is a big concern of mine because, so I just wanted to share it with you and hope that we're all of one mind that children need to be children.
Two hands up.
Yeah, so I just want to go on record and say that I don't share your view. I have 2 kids, and we've been open with different genders and different sexualities their entire lives, and they have never been pressured into one or the other, and they are perfectly well-adjusted children. So I take issue with that line of reasoning. Laura? Laura Chapman?
Yeah, sorry for the delay. Nate, thank you so much for bringing this to all of us. I appreciate you, and I appreciate that these conversations are happening in this space. And I'm so sorry that it was correlated to child trafficking. I take real issue with that correlation as a mother of 2 teenage boys who have grown up in a similar fashion to what Eileen referenced. I can say that they're both very well adjusted, and I'm so grateful for all in our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I had another hand up. Swift?
Thank you. I was going to echo what Laura said. I think it's really, I'm going to be more blunt. I think it's really insulting to bring in the child trafficking when we're talking about Gay Pride Month, which is completely irrelevant to, in my perspective, to celebrating the LGBTQ plus IA community. IA plus, sorry, put it plus around, stop. And I understand that it's a concern and it can be brought up in other spaces, but in this moment we're talking about that. So that shook me a little bit. And I know that the PCS has the Putney Central School has an amazing resource for adults that are curious about how to work with children as they're exploring and learning their environments. And I would offer that as a resource for, I think it was Emily, if she has further discussions to have with people. They do a really beautiful job of the way that they create spaces for children to be whoever they want to be, in a way that certainly isn't pressuring, but just creating safe space. So
Yeah, yes.
I haven't called him yet. Is there any other comments online? Is there further discussion among the board on this? Emily?
And I was careful to say that it rubs up against this issue. It isn't this topic just because we're talking about sexuality in general, and what I'm seeing as sort of a more an agenda that isn't generated from the people here, but to begin to talk about things like minor attracted children as a way to normalize pedophilia. And I know this is a serious conversation, but this is a serious problem. And none of us are comfortable talking about it. And if we don't talk about it, we can't deal with it. It's just totally outrageous that our country has to cope with the other. And I apologize if I'm offending people. I'm not offended by anybody who wants to express themselves in any way. I'm totally tolerant of it. I'm just trying to bring our conversations to things that really matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there a discussion on the board?
No, but I'd like to go on record as saying that that your concern, Emily, is a legitimate concern, But the fact that you're linking it with the conversation about LGBTQ pride issues it's upsetting to me. I am not the least bit afraid to talk about sexuality in all sorts of ways, including your concerns, but they are not linked in any way, and I actually do take deep offense at the linking of those two things together. And so maybe another time you can bring that up when it's not linked with the LGBTQ pride.
Yeah, thank you. I feel the same. I feel it's an unfortunate hijacking of the original reason for this particular agenda item, which was to celebrate June Pride Month, and to really celebrate it, and to emphasize that these are safe spaces, and that Putney in particular is a safe space for people to express themselves however they want. And I do also recognize that that also means that we are in a public space and people can express whatever they want. So it does go both ways, but I do find that was unfortunate.
Let's wait a minute.
I'm still talking. I'm not. You're not recognized.
Okay, but
You are not recognized right
Well,
now.
neither
I
are
am.
you.
Yes, I
You're
am.
not
I am the
recognized.
chair of select board.
Okay, that's fine, but don't say I hijacked.
You are. You are not. You are out of line.
Okay, can you
No.
recognize me in a second?
Swift.
I just wanted to say that adding in the celebration of the piece that Nate and I had talked about adding in that maybe didn't get added in, but we do have elected officials that are part of this community, and celebrating those individuals with this month, and thank you for your service, and honoring my gratitude for the diversity those people bring to our leadership. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't want to out. I don't know. Like I think people. I'm like, but
No, that's. It's all good. Thank you. Comments in the room, Emily?
Thank you. I don't feel that I hijacked it. I also feel that it's a bigger conversation and there's much more to bring to the table, and this, as you said, might need to happen in another place. I do feel that I was warranted, and there's many, many people in town who feel the same way, and we need to find a way to be at peace together, and I am at peace with you, and I ought to be able to peacefully bring up these concerns without being denigrated. Thank you.
You have certainly brought up your concerns. Does anybody else in the select board have anything to say? All right.
Wait, I do.
Okay.
Only that I want to thank the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for naming the work that we obviously still have to do and taking it on. So,
I second that. All right.
Thank you.
So moving on to select board items, new business, Green Mountain Power Putney projects and process, which is Justin.
Hi, my name is Justin. I work for Green Mountain Power. Come to you today with some future projects and plans we have to increase reliability throughout the town. The storm we just had posed a lot of problems for us, and we learned a lot from it. The section of town that I'd like to focus on right now would be Purple Mountain, Holland Hill area. They've lost power in excess of 70 times in the last 3 years, which we frankly find is unacceptable. I've spoken with your town manager in my office. I have some visuals if I could hook into a screen, if that's possible.
I don't know if
If
that's
not,
possible. Is that possible?
No.
We'd need to show it on Zoom too, so
Okay.
it might not be
That's
possible.
okay. So I've got some maps that I've supplied to
Yeah.
Karen.
So, yeah, they're in their packets.
Yeah.
Did you,
Alright, so the power comes, most of the power generated in Putney, it starts at the substation on River Road and it branches out in 3 circuits from there. the power comes up West Hill Road, by the Putney School, and the three-phase, which is the larger of our power system distribution, stops at the intersection of Aiken Road. From there it splits and it goes into single phase one direction, two phase another direction. Single phase goes down through West Hill and beyond Putney Mountain Road, and then it cuts up in the existing line, cuts through the woods section in the middle of that page quite far and rises up on Holland Hill. That line is about 1,800 feet long. It's completely inaccessible. Every time it goes out, it's multiple hours to get it back on. And just all around, it's a really bad situation out there. Off-road poles that we can't drive to, we can't get trucks to, are less safe to work around. Safety is our number one concern for ourselves and as you as a community. The solution to this would be the line that comes up Putney Mountain Road, stops at Overhills Road, and goes up to feed Mrs. Sidebottom's place on the top of the hill there. To eliminate that off-road section, Green Mountain Power would like to connect that point with the point where it pops out of the woods at the top of the hill. So you're looking at about an 1,800-ish foot section of line. If we connect those 2 points, we can eliminate the off-road section. It's going to increase reliability and reduce restoration times when we do have a problem.
So the piece that goes, are you talking about cutting across this way?
So,
Sorry,
yeah,
not quite sure what.
so I can see what
Yeah,
you're
can
looking
you just
at.
put it on?
Yeah, so right here,
Yep,
there's an off-road line section.
this is the, okay, yeah,
From there to there.
okay,
So here's Diana's
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
So if we connect here to here along the roadway,
uh-huh,
the line would be out of the woods. So
okay,
it would be more accessible
right,
in the sense that we could get to it better. We have a couple options with it. I'd like to bury it because underground power lines don't
I
hang up with trees.
wholeheartedly agree
So,
that we should be burying the lines.
And you've been doing some of that in Putney already, right? You've buried some lines.
Yeah,
all the way
yeah, I can talk about that too. So here's a little bit better review. Existing line up through the woods,
Okay,
connecting from over Hills Road to where it pops out to eliminate this.
okay, so this doesn't exist right now.
No, it does not.
Those- Okay, all right.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Let's do it for town now.
there's a couple ways we can do that. We can run line overhead up the road, or we can bury it. I'd like to bury it, but it's gonna depend on how ledgy things are up there. So
Right.
I'm expecting some ledge. I talked with Diana, she gave me a really good easement so that if I have to build up the right-hand side of the road as you're heading up overhead, I can do so, but I prefer to put it in the road. I went over this with your road foreman, Harlow there, and he's on board with it as well. So your town doesn't really have a permitting process for these sort of things, and in the past, it's kind of been done on a,
Handshake.
a handshake.
Okay,
So I've come up with I don't want to call it a letter of intent because that sounds a little bit offensive, but, just an outlining of what we would like to do.
okay,
And you guys can review it. The other section that we would like to work on is in this general area. There's a Mr. King, I believe, at the end of Joy Road. His power comes all the way from Putney Mountain Road.
okay.
So yeah, so
Is this the one we're talking about?
no, so this is Joy Road at the intersection of Fairway Drive.
Mr. King, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep,
So, right now, he's fed from Putney Mountain, which is all the way through the woods. It's, counting 18 spans of off-road, again, just not accessible. We'd like to bury it through the woods here,
okay.
or excuse me, through the roadway, in the roadway.
Uh-huh,
So, with that being said, there's some things that we need to take into consideration when we do this. That side bottom piece is a pretty large piece, and there's parcels alongside of it. Once we lay this cable and conduit in the ground, we would put in some splice points at certain intervals so that if the area was developed, one could tap into the power line.
Okay.
And so it's a really good investment for the future reliability for people that are already there, that are experiencing the outages as well as whatever may come down the pike in the future.
Okay.
So,
So what becomes of the poles, and
Yep.
on the poles, are you also carrying like cable or
so
other things?
that's a very good question. So, I'm working on a piece right now in Dummerston on Spalding Hill. I met out there yesterday with both Consolidated and Comcast.
Okay.
And I said, look, we're gonna absorb the expense of creating this ditch. You know, when I do so, can you be here with men and equipment and material so that you can follow us into the ditch, because it's highly beneficial for them to not be on poles either.
Right.
And they, at this time, seem all for it.
Okay.
I have good contact info with them, VTEL, and it's gonna be a coordinated effort to get off the poles and into the ground. Green Mountain Power has the responsibility, once the third parties, as in the communication companies, are off the poles, to remove the poles.
Okay.
So once that's done, the poles come out and you don't see them anymore.
No more poles, all right.
Yeah.
And in the future, if somebody were to come along and I'm thinking specifically of DB Fiber, to come along and they would want to string along there, would they be able to do that easily, or would that be a project?
So those companies are already doing that sort of thing on their own. So there's already a telephone company that's buried in the same section of Holland Hill that I'd like to bury in.
Okay, so they're just digging another
They
trench.
would just do it on their own. The first one there usually takes the preferred route, so kind of left with what's left.
First come, first served. Okay.
If you guys are all right with it and discuss it, have any questions, the first thing I would do is I'd probably do a little bit of test digging up there just to see what the viability of getting that in the ground is. And then if not, then I would look at the options of, like I said, putting it overhead up the road. I really want to alleviate the outages that those guys are experiencing up there, because it's unacceptable. And there's many other places in town where, the same thing can happen. He talked about Windmill Hill. We got kind of backed into a corner on that one. We had a really large tree up there that had fallen on the lines. We were able to route our lines over it, but the communication was not.
Yeah.
And man, I talked to, I don't know how many contractors, including Miller Crane Company, about reaching out over that far, grabbing a hold of that thing, because it was just a bad situation. There was no good place to stand to cut the thing. And it came down to, we can either spend a bunch of money and possibly get hurt doing this, or we can bury this line in the road, get around it, and that whole road, frankly, something needs to happen with that whole road too. So
That's a different issue.
That's a different issue. So the challenges we face with this sort of thing, like that particular job was a really narrow road. We're under a very big time pressure. I don't think we quite got notification out enough in time to notify everybody. We did put signs out, but still got a little bit of pushback, as did Karen. So I'll work with her to alleviate that as much as possible. Notices, signs on the roadway. She mentioned the town Facebook page.
Yep.
Anything we can do to plan these things in far enough advance that everybody has time to plan and go about it that way. So.
So you don't need action from us necessarily?
No, just a blessing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I personally have been talking about burying the lines for years. I've gone through 2 ice storms where we were stopped for days, and it wasn't because we couldn't get ourselves out. It was because all of the trees fell on the power lines. Everybody in town had a chainsaw. We could have cleared that road in probably 2 hours, but because they were on the lines, we had to wait. So I feel like this is, frankly, it's about time. And also, it was the storm just before December. No, the one in December. We were the only ones that were out in Putney, but what happened was there was a tree that fell down on the lines and snapped both poles going up to my house. So, if the lines had been buried there, we wouldn't have had a problem.
Right.
So I'm all for it personally. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but
So along those lines as well, during both of those storms, my other role at GMP is the storm director for the district. So I sit in front of 3 computer screens and a radio, and I coordinate just about
I'm sure it's lots of fun.
the whole effort that goes on there. And
Yeah.
I'm in contact, your town contact for me that the last storms has been Tom Goddard.
Yep.
So he relays information to me, and I process it and, you know, put out the biggest fires first, as they say. So, you know, you and I and Karen, we can all open up communication lines that way during the storm events. The more information I get, the better I can help, the more resources I can send to the trouble spots. You know, I think for what we had this last one, we got hit pretty good, and I think you know, communication was really good with
Yeah.
all the towns that I deal with, so.
Definitely, it's
Tom's
been,
great.
yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, you guys have been working really hard to get the power back up, but if there's a way to work smarter, so to speak, I
Right.
think that's probably, I think it's great.
To your point, when the trees are down, you know, anybody can cut them. When they're
Right.
down and in the power lines, it has to be us.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Karen?
So I just want to add too, with regard to the easements, those easements will be recorded in the land records.
Yep.
So in the future, you know, anyone can look them up, especially if they're gonna dig up the road.
Right,
And a map also goes with the easement, correct, Justin? Yeah,
okay,
so I think it's a great process
yeah,
because, yeah, as we develop more and more, we're gonna need that type of, recorded information.
right, and also, well, but also because we're having more severe storms at weird times, I think, you know, we
Right.
need to prepare for the
That
future. I
too.
think this is really smart. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, I have a question that would be for the gentleman from Green Mountain Tower. For his information, I live in the southeastern part of Putney near the interstate exit, specifically Putney Landing. I'm in my 4th year living here. In the past few months, we have had more and longer power failures than ever before, and always in fair weather. So I'm wondering, you mentioned earlier reliability of your distribution grid in Putney. Are you able to give us any information about that?
Yeah, so we currently have projects to reconductor from the Pepsi plant all the way up to the substation, and then from the substation coming out from River Road North all the way to the Westminster line. And also we're gonna upgrade the lower end of Kimball Hill, so coming off of this road here, all the way up to what we have, we call the step down, which just passes that Holbrook Road on the left up there. So there's some storm hardening going on for sure. The current infrastructure is in what they call a cross-arm configuration, which is a little bit more fragile than what we're going to be putting in, which is called the Hendrix or spacer cable construction. That's when you see the cluster of wires that you have out here. There's a cluster of 3 with a half-inch messenger cable on the top. So with that stuff, the trees are more likely to fall and hit that half-inch messenger and kind of hang on to it. And the power still flows through because the conductors are all insulated. So we have a lot of uninsulated conductors in the town that we're currently working to change out. It's a pretty big process, and you're going to see some big changes. So like if you look around town, all those red and white ribbons on the pole, that's us.
Okay.
Getting ready to change a pole, getting ready to reconductor a line, move a line out of the woods into the roadway, bury line. We're gonna be pretty aggressive around here about, you know, sorting you guys out as far as reliability.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so I was about to ask you if your question was answered, Mr. Fairman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Is there other comments or questions online? There are questions or comments in the room? Is there any other questions on the select board? You got my personal blessing, so.
Thank you, Justin.
All right. Thank you. So the next piece is Select Board unfinished business. The first one we have is the VT Operations and Safety Bureau, Christian Square at Route 5, no parking zone update. We have a letter. Should I read it?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Sure.
Read it? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is from Ian DeGratis, who's the traffic operations engineer for V-Trans, I assume.
Yes.
This letter is in response to your March 22, 2023 letter requesting V-Trans review parking along US 5 near the corner of Christian Square due to visibility concerns. At its May 23, 2023 meeting, the Vermont Traffic Committee voted to accept traffic operations recommendation to create a short no parking zone on the northbound east side of the US 5 beginning 40 feet plus or minus south of the junction with Christian Square, TH 57, located at mile point 0.610 plus or minus, and extending to 40 plus or minus feet north of the intersection to improve sight lines for vehicles exiting from Christian Square. A copy of the official no parking certificate is included with this letter. A work order will be issued to install the required signs. The no parking zone will take effect once the signs are installed. No further action is required by the town. However, we recommend a copy of the certificate be filed in the town records. Traffic operations will also work with V-Trans Maintenance District 2 to get the crosswalk located at Kimball Hill and Mill Street repainted. Please do not hesitate to contact me at 802 whatever if you have any questions. All right, so the crosswalk between Kimball Hill and Mill Street, that's the one that...
It's right there by the pizza place.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be nice.
And then probably get the one up by Basketball too, while we're doing that one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'll send a little reminder. And if I was quick, because I went to the meeting via Zoom, and so I did send some pictures over to them, and I should have asked when we talked about Sidewalk if we could get some flashing solar lights right there. Because I think that would slow traffic down a little bit, coming down off the hill.
For the crosswalk?
For the crosswalk. Right
The
here.
one that they're repainting?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't think about it when
Yeah.
I had them all in the room.
Yeah,
There are other towns on Zoom as well,
okay.
but I may just write a letter and see if we can get,
Is that a state thing, or would that be us getting those?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's a state road, but,
Yeah, I know, but we own the sidewalks, don't we?
yeah, but
I'm just-
they're like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty, that can be a pretty dangerous spot
For,
for pedestrians. Like with if you are on Kimball Hill and you're looking the wrong way and people are crossing from the diner, there's potential for issues there. Not that a flashing light would help that situation, but it's just, the diner traffic and pedestrian walking there could get pretty heavy, especially on the weekends. So that would be a good idea.
for the lights.
Yeah.
It's kind of too bad that crosswalk isn't closer to the diner, because it would get it away from that intersection.
Yeah.
And that's where that's where the traffic.
I mean, it's logical to have it there because it's the corner and there's the end of the sidewalk. And I think isn't there a dip for
Yes,
wheelchair access?
ADA.
So,
Isn't there a crosswalk on the other side of where
Like the
Kimball
mill
Hill
to
comes
the-
in?
Side of the bridge.
The mill to the diner, right?
Yeah,
yes.
There's one.
Right. So there's one from the mill to the diner.
so there's 3 right there, so
Right,
got the corner here, the mill, and then Basketball.
right, right. I still think it would be,
What it probably needs is a light or something to.
Yeah.
no lights.
I'm not
But
saying,
no,
I don't
but
want
only
one, but I'm
because
just
you watch
thinking
people
about.
cross to the diner and
Yeah.
everybody's crossing here.
Yeah,
Right.
You know?
right, because they're parking here.
Right,
Yeah.
they're parking here and crossing there,
Yeah.
and that would just be more logical place. And if it's crossing into the driveway, then there's already a access for a wheelchair. You know, it doesn't need to have a.
You'd have to take away parking.
Oh,
Yeah,
on the far side, on the diner side, it's not accessible. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, but anyways, just what. It would also be like solving that problem that you're talking about when you're driving down and you're trying to pay attention to everything.
Yeah.
Those people are crossing right
Yeah,
there.
Right.
Yeah, so can't get a crosswalk anywhere else, but we have 3 right now.
Right, exactly.
That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, the sidewalk up there, the one up higher makes sense. That's
Yeah,
where the
That one makes
sidewalk
sense, yeah,
crosses.
right.
And it makes sense if, just too
It is
many,
what it is.
those two
It
are
is
too
what it
close.
is. We, you know, hey.
Okay,
When we do a streetscape, then we can.
there you go. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, as one who uses the sidewalks and crosswalks a lot, I'll offer this observation. If we're going to put strobe lights at any crosswalk in the area of the general store in Basketville, it should be the one that crosses from in front of the old fire station to near the lower Basketville parking lot, because that's the one on Route 5 with no other signalization. The one at the foot of Putney, of Kimball Hill, however, there is a stop sign there. So, yes, I realize the stop sign applies only to people coming down the hill, but people who are turning onto Kimball Hill have to slow down anyway, because it is a right angle turn. So, in sum, I'm suggesting that if we're going to put strobe lights in, that we seriously consider giving priority to the one up the hill across Route 5. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Is there further discussion on the board? Is there any comments in the room? I'm forgetting everybody's name. Sue, she's sorry.
Just a comment regarding how to signal to traffic to slow down, because I cross there as well and I'm concerned about it. There's also painting that can happen further away before you get to the pedestrian mark that says slow and even can have colors.
Yeah.
And those are easier solutions in the sense that you have to repaint them, but you don't have to worry about a light operating and being knocked out or have you. So just another thought as you're talking to them is, can we just have some stripes or slow or something that gives people the idea to slow down? Because it is a hazard, I have to say. Look carefully before I cross.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good solution for the people crossing where the crosswalk isn't either, because if it was further on, then people at least would be slowing down before they. Hopefully, yeah, right. Well, I mean, before the people.
People
It
jump.
would be kind of like a larger crosswalk without having 2 or 3 crosswalks.
Right.
Possibly. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it. Elizabeth.
Hi. Is it possible for us to get signage about fines for blowing through these crosswalks when pedestrians are present? You know, hitting the wallet and a combination of more sheriff time during these critical periods of high pedestrian traffic. It's just a thought. I see $250 fine. Few people get fined, they might start respecting them a little more.
Maybe.
I don't know if that's a state thing or a town.
It'd be interesting to know how effective that is.
Yeah.
You know, we probably could find that out, right? You know, like how effective. I mean, I kind of lean towards the least amount of signage as possible, as opposed to just adding a bunch more signs. But I'd be happy. I'll look that up. whether it's effective or not. I'd be curious.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I know, hitting your wallet can be quite painful, and and a little bit of sheriffing and some heavy fines could slow a lot of people down.
Good.
Yeah, I agree that the hit in the wallet is effective. I'm just curious whether the sign.
The sign is effective, right? So is there other discussion among the board on the sidewalk? Emily?
Yes, I think that the idea to paint it on the roadway, slow pedestrians, is a good incremental first step. I'm concerned about the fines because the fines have different effects on different households. And there's also the pedestrians that need to kind of stand instead of just walk across. But I think that putting it first on the road is the least intrusive and the least expensive, and probably pretty effective. Slow people crossing, and maybe the symbol of people crossing. I really like that idea. I don't like the idea of adding more lights, and I don't like the idea of fines because some people, frankly, more and more people are already having a hard time with their budget, and it can really mess up the stability of a home if somebody gets a $250 fine and that's their budget for heating or something. So I think we've got to be very careful in this economy about adding more financial punitive measures for behavior.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Farman?
Madam Chair, 2 brief points. The first one is, you mentioned fines, but you forgot points on the license, which are also assessed, and which can be more problematic because they're cumulative. And once you get to a certain number of points, your license is automatically suspended. As to the point about socioeconomic effects, if a pedestrian is injured, disabled, or killed in a crosswalk, it makes no difference whatsoever what the socioeconomic standing of that person is. That person is hurt, disabled, or dead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there other comments on the select board about the original topic, which was a sidewalk repainting and the visibility issue on Christian Square?
No, well done though, we did it.
Okay. All right, so we don't have to do anything with this, right? Do we have to?
No, it's all set.
It's all set. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the ARPA discussion. Like you were gonna come back with us.
Yeah, I had said I would come back with an outline of principles and suggested procedure and timeline and application. I don't have it done.
Okay.
So that 1 week turnaround between the meetings and all.
You thought you had 2 weeks, but actually
I thought I had 2 weeks, but I only had 1.
That's fair.
But what I do think, so I will bring that to the next meeting, but what I do feel like I think that we should do is rescind our resolution, the resolution of our ARPA committee. We never rescinded that resolution, and I think that we should, that resolution is out there. So I move that we rescind the ARPA resolution that was in effect for the last year.
Karen?
I'm not sure if we need to do it in writing or it's.
It might need to be an agenda item.
Yeah.
Because
I'm gonna have to check with Larry.
Pretty amorphous with the ARPA discussion. Oh, does the rescension?
Yeah, to see if we need to have something in writing.
I mean, I don't know that we need to rescind it either because we did set it up as a discrete committee. So
I would want to check with him because I know when we ratify or modify resolutions,
we put it in writing. Yeah, we've been talking about making it so that it's not just stuck in the minutes somewhere too.
Right, because sometimes you don't find those, like, 5 years down the road.
I mean, it could just be as simple as writing rescinded on this in the title,
Right. That,
But
do we need to check with
why
Larry?
don't you check with Larry and we'll put the possible, if we need to do that, we'll put it on the next agenda, which is actually 2 weeks from now.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll have Larry respond to you.
Okay. Oh, right.
So I'll copy you with an
Okay.
email and then
Okay.
he can
Okay.
respond to
It's
you.
because Karen's going on vacation and she's not checking her email
No.
or checking her messages
No,
or texting anybody.
you're all on your own.
So we're all on our own for the next meeting. Is there, do you want to, so basically we're gonna like,
We'll put that on for the next.
okay.
Yes.
And maybe we'll have something more substantial on the outline that you were gonna come up with too.
Right.
Okay.
Karen and I discussed that we did not think that needed to come as a resolution to the board at this
Okay.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
I think it's
we're not
just-
putting it in that format.
No, I think we decided we wanted some kind of outline and maybe a way forward to start
Right.
spending the money.
procedure,
Right, procedure and an
a
application
timeline, and
maybe,
then having it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there further discussion along the board about ARPA? Charlie?
No.
Okay. Comments online, Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to mention, I second what you have decided regarding the rescission of this resolution. It is clear under the remote open meeting law that just as the adoption of a resolution or an ordinance must be duly warned, so must amendment or rescission thereof. There's simply no question about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there any other comment online about ARPA? Is there any comments in the room? All right, moving on to the, wait a second. Okay, sorry, can't read my own writing. The Selectboard Work Sessions follow-up items,
I just want to make a comment about the conflict of interest and ethical conduct policy. So I started revising it for our conversation last week. And I would ask the board to revisit that document, because if I strike out item number 5, which was prohibition, it throws the whole document off. And I say that because there's an item on like the second or third page that refers to that specific item.
Okay.
And I'm gonna remind this board that that document was created by VLCT,
Yeah,
by their legal team.
I know. It's just, I
So-
think the code of ethics piece, because of the way that it was written, the code of ethics and the conflict of interest got intermingled in that document.
Yeah, but we also talked about moving item number 5
Yeah,
to, further in the document, which I think would work and it would be a lot cleaner.
okay. Well, why
having-
don't you do the revisions you think would work and
Okay.
bring it back to us
All
next
right.
meeting?
That's what I'm gonna do. I wanna keep it simple. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. Were there other follow-up items? There was, what I would like to do is schedule another work session fairly soon. So if you don't mind sending out another doodle poll.
Sure.
Then we can work on the other things like the social agency policy, which I really do feel like we need to get going on that. There was another thing.
So we have the appointment one,
Oh,
revamp
right,
that
the
one.
appointment, yes, yep.
Appointment procedure. Charlie's got his blight
Like,
ordinance.
Right, I'm working on it.
okay, is that a work session item or is that a agenda item?
I think it's gonna take me a while
It's
to
okay.
get my arms around this, because I had put comments in some time ago, and I just got the revised document,
Okay,
and I don't know whether it should be a work session document or an agenda item.
okay, well, we can put it on the work session agenda, and then we can table it if we feel like we don't need to work on it.
Well, right, I hear you,
Okay.
but it, you know, it's probably.
Or if you need more time, we can wait.
I think I need more time.
Okay.
Can I make a recommendation to, if select board members are gonna take on a specific project, like Peg and Charlie, my recommendation is that they do the best they can with, because they've got it in their mind what they're trying to,
Sure.
get the buy-in for. Then it comes back in a work session, not in a select board meeting.
Okay.
And then you all go over it
That's,
with me.
yeah,
and
that sounds good.
then we can go back
That's what we
and
did with the
forth.
appointment policy too,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, procedure.
Right, and then when you're comfortable with it, then bring it into a public setting
Okay,
and then make your decision.
okay. All right, sounds good. Okay, so,
Thank you.
all right, so does anybody else have any other follow-up items? We're just gonna have another doable and have another one soon, because
Okay.
it was so
Yeah.
fun.
You did a lot of work in that
We
section.
did, we
So-
got somewhere.
Yeah.
Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, this is perhaps the moment to mention that not everyone in the public is clear as to what a work session is, but the Vermont Open Meeting Law it recognizes 3 types of meetings of a public body, which you are: regular meeting, special meeting, emergency meeting. So whatever you do in the meeting may be a work session, but it is a special meeting of our Town of Putney Select Board and needs to be clearly and duly warned as such. I've noticed that sometimes it's not been completely clear that it's on the agenda that it's a special select board item, but actually a special select board meeting, but actually by law it must be warned as such. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
I can just say that they are warned as special select board meetings.
Okay. It may not be, for whatever reason, it may not be clear to the public. So just
I will
take that under
discuss that
advisement.
separately with the town manager.
Okay, thank you. All right, so is there any other comments online? Any comments in the room? Okay,
We're not at other business here, are we?
no. So the next piece is, I cannot read what I just wrote. Flag policy. So,
In your packet,
yeah, what is it? It's an email, right?
The last page.
last page, Nate's got it.
Do you want to read it?
Sure.
Okay.
Sent from Swift. Flag policy statement for tonight. The Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee would like to formally recommend that the town of Putney fly the pride flag for the month of June 2023 in celebration of Pride Month. We recommend specifically flying the intersex progress pride flag at Town Hall, Putney Central School, and the library and the fire department. Flying this flag is a symbol, and we need more, but it shows our commitment to inclusion in our town. We have much work to do, and action in this is an important continuance of the work we are doing in town. The committee further recommends that the town adopt a formal commemorative flag policy to have clear and specific expectations and understandings about the flags flying on the town property, and to support further use of the flying of flags to demonstrate support for marginalized groups in our population and visitors. Thank you for considering our recommendation. Swift.
Okay, so this came up last year, and there was a lot of back and forth about, at the time it hadn't been properly warned as an agenda item. But then we also started talking about this flag policy. First of all, I'm gonna put that back on the Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee for you to come up with a flag policy for us.
Yeah, right. Right now, Nate and Christina Shin are on a subcommittee and Nate has done some work reading the Berry City's flag policy and
Okay.
got.
So I personally am all in favor of flying a pride flag. What I've been told by our legal counsel is that it's a slippery slope, and if we fly one flag, we may need to fly other flags due to the fact that it's a First Amendment right for people to express their beliefs, and if we get granted for one group, we may need to grant it for another. So I personally don't want to go down that road, especially since we don't have a flag policy right now. I totally understand the desire. I did say that I think you should reach out to the school, because I think they may already have a policy, and they may have more leeway as to what kind of flags they can and are willing to fly. But I'm not sure that I would recommend us flying a flag by a certain group at this point, because we just don't have the safeguards in place to make sure that we don't end up also flying a Confederate flag at some point, basically. That's my opinion. What does the rest of the board think?
I think that was a good overview of our discussion we had. We mentioned that we couldn't put it on we weren't gonna put them on the flagpole, so we'd have to find another spot.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yep, so,
Which we could still do, but we'd still open ourselves up to
I think we need a policy in place,
Okay,
some research before we open that.
Yeah, I
can of
think
worms.
council ought to weigh in on this.
okay.
I mean, the school, they're their own separate, we have no say over them,
Right,
so.
exactly. And I know school districts have flown flags in the
Right,
past, so.
that's their-
So they may have more leeway. I just wanna make sure that, I want to express that this in no way means that the select board does not support flying that flag. It's more of a responsibility that we have to ensure that we do something like that in a responsible way. So I hope you don't take it as a flat out no. It's unfortunate that we have to think like that, but in this, especially in this day and age, we absolutely do. Mr. Fairman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Back in December when this came up, I was curious, so I did some research, and I'll simply say, I'm not allowed to give you legal advice, but I am allowed to bring information to your attention. Right? One of you in particular may be especially interested. May 2nd, 2022, Supreme Court of the United States, Shurtleff versus City of Boston. That's SHURTLEFF. The site is 142 SCT 1583, 2022, which very interestingly and informatively considers and adjudicates the constitutionality of raising and flying in a public plaza at Boston City Hall flags that are not those of the City of Boston, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, or United States of America, governmentarian jurisdiction there. So that's all I should and shall say, but the Supremes have something to say about this subject, and it is extremely interesting reading. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Swift?
Thank you for being cautious. I think it's important in this work. I don't think it's helpful to rush and do things quickly and things get messy. And I would push back with the invitation of that I think it might be worth, if flying this flag is the year and we were supposed to, and we don't have the person power or whatever it is to get this in the past year to get the flag policy. Josh Laughlin was going to work on it with us. We were all busy and it didn't happen this year. And here we are again with a formal, we're warned, we're formal, it's feeling very containered for the month of June, for 2023, for this event, for this reason. And I would open up the possibility that it's okay if someone gets sort of like, hey, well, I want to put a Confederate flag in the town hall. They bring it to town meeting, you guys say, no, we're working on a formal flag policy, and no. In the same way that this is like, working on a formal flag policy, and yes, because you do represent this community and the constituents that you know would support this. You know the majority of your constituents would say, great, I do want a pride flag flying on my town hall. and that you're representing those constituents in a way that I believe you represent your constituents, and that you would say, no, we don't want a Confederate flag flying at our town hall. So it would, in the future, if someone in the next, I mean, maybe equity inclusion can really like power in this and get you a pride, get it in 3 months to you or even less, and that we can really pedal to the metal, get it to you folks. And that in the next 3 months, if something comes through, you guys are the decision makers, and you step up and you make the decision, say, yes, this flag, no, that, not that flag. I think it's worth that drama. I think it's worth that conflict to do it now. And last time this was brought up, it wasn't warned, it was in a similar situation. There was 80 and I saying, wait, why don't we fly the pride flag this month? And you all were like, great, oh wait, this is not even warned and all that. But it's been, yeah, I would say, I think it's in the same place the Supreme Court in Boston. I think that's worth it. And this piece of, it's worth it to be this tiny little town in Putney that wants to fly a pride flag and have this be publicized by the Supreme Court and be like, wow, Boston tried to do it and they got knocked down, and then the tiny little town in Putney tried to do it. And he's like, yeah, we're Putney, we want to try. Like, I think it's worth the fight. And I think that's what, and I don't expect there to be a fight in the next 3 months if we're able to get it to you that quickly, that there's going to be that big of a conflict. I understand the protection, but I would push for us doing it because you represent the community, and the community would support this.
Okay, thank you. I have 3 hands up online, and I have 1 hand up in the room. So I'm gonna go to, let's see, Heather hasn't spoken in a bit, so it'll be Heather, Laura, Mr. Fairman, and then Emily. So Heather, you're up.
Thank you. I just want to kind of put on the floor that if the Equity and Inclusion Center is tasked, with making a policy, that it does need to be inclusive of all Putney residents. I understand that the Pride flag for June is a big deal, but May is also Women's Month. May is Mental Health Month. There are people who have other celebrations that the Equity and Inclusion Center may not be okay with, and beauty for one, you got to do for all.
Okay, thank you. Just before we go to comments, I'm going to select board.
I just wanted to respond to that by saying that we started with the observances, and what you just mentioned was in the observances. Like Women's History Month, we talked about, I forget, that was March, right?
That was, yeah, I think it was March.
So yeah, we had that discussion, but we did not fly a flag, you're right. But we're talking about June now. It's just my point of view, sorry.
Fair. Okay, going back to the public, Laura?
The town faced a very similar issue when we painted Black Lives Matter on the road. Mm-hmm. And at the time, my understanding was the town does have the right to make speech and to deny speech in that form. And I think it goes back to the case that Howard actually pointed at. I could be mistaken. But I will also say that the school board has faced this issue as well, and they have to operate under the same guidance that you do as far as free speech goes. And they have been able to fly Black Lives Matter flags. They've been able to fly other flags, to the best of my knowledge, without any pushback, really. So it's consulting with the school board would probably be a really good thing, because they consulted with their attorneys too before doing any of that.
Okay, that's a good suggestion, thank you. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, 2 brief points. I'm not arguing for or against. I'm simply suggesting that you obtain legal counsel in this matter. I will offer 2 observations. The first one is the chair of the Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee spoke very eloquently, and I commend her for this. However, governments in the United States of America are subject to the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Schools are not, because schools are not themselves governments. So that's all I can say about that. But I simply suggest that before you go ahead, that you do obtain counsel from the town attorney and perhaps someone else among you. Because actually, as has been suggested, taking a case from the town of Putney to the Supreme Court, we might want to consider how large a item, a large budget item that would be, even to get to the point of asking the Supreme Court whether they will take the case, what's called certiorari. And if they say no, then the money is wasted. This is, if we decide to go that route, we are playing in the most major of major leagues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Emily?
Yes, and thank you. And it's unfortunate that that somehow you characterize me as not supportive and tolerant and wanting everybody to be able to express themselves in peace. We spoke about a slippery slope, and there is a slippery slope in the LGBTQ plus. The plus is the minor attracted people. That is beginning to be a term that's thrown around, and that is to normalize pedophilia. Now, we need to be very, very careful about that. And I don't think there's any trans, any gay, anybody who wants children to be attacked that way. We're facing a lot of new people coming into America. But besides that, what I want to say is I am on your side. I grew up with a gay family. I've housed trans people. So please don't make me on the other side. I'm simply making a boundary here that we need to be aware of, that we need to support one another's freedom, but we also need to be aware of a slippery slope that goes to minor attracted people. That is incorrect. People should not be utilizing children in a predatory way. And I know we all agree on that. So I just wanted to clarify that you please don't attribute me with a Confederate flag or anything like that. There also is an American peace flag too. And I agree that
I did not mention you when I said Confederate flag.
No, but you said I hijacked, but I was bringing up
I'm talking now, please, thank you.
Okay, sorry, you're right. I just offended that you said that.
So, and also that had little to do with the flag policy that we're talking about. I have more questions online, but I've got stuff on the select board.
Right, I mean, I back to the flag conversation, I really do hope that the Equity and Inclusion Committee can get some traction on this. And I mean, my sense is that we will find that we are not obligated to give every voice, to run every flag up the flagpole, so to speak, or to provide a voice for every single position. We have made statements here as a select board about what our values are as a town. We've signed declarations of inclusion that make it very clear what it is that we believe in, as well as what we don't believe in. So I think once we get the policy, I'm hopeful that we will be able to be able to fly the flag without it being a slippery slope. I'm assuming that we will be able to do that.
Thank you. So I had two hands up, now I only have one. So I have Jamie.
Hi, Jamie Comtois, Putney, Vermont. I just wanted to, I had my hand up for something else, and then I heard, I think I'm not supposed to address other people in the room, so I guess I'll address the chair and say, I'm concerned, Madam Chair, when I hear, as a member of the LGBTQ community, that the plus refers to pedophiles. Mm-hmm. The plus does not refer to pedophiles. That is erroneous information. That is a trope throughout history that has been used to defame and dehumanize people within the LGBTQ community. And so I just want to, I'm sorry for coming to the meeting late, but as a mom who feels really protective of my two kids, who is married to a woman, to hear myself categorized in a group that condones pedophilia is offensive, and it is untrue. And it is a very old trope, and I just want to be really super clear that that is disturbing to hear as a member of the Putney community. The other thing I raised my hand about is I wanted to say that I have been present at school board meetings. I was a part of the conversations that happened in the town of Putney as a member of the Equity and Inclusion Committee a couple years ago when we had these conversations around paying for Black Lives Matter. The information is that you do have the right as an elected body to make that decision. I would not equate the LGBTQ pride flag in any way with any other flag that has become a representative of a hate symbol, which I heard reference that we might have to raise the Confederate flag if we raise the LGBTQ flag. The LGBTQ flag is representative of inclusion, and the Confederate flag, unfortunately, has become a symbol of exclusion and hate in our nation. And so, because our community has progressive values, we've gone through the process and the effort of electing you because we have listened to you, we have relationships with you, we know your values, and that this is a values-based body, that you have the right to make that vote and to raise that flag. I was Googling while you all were speaking and noticing that the US government flies the pride flag. And so there are many decisions that are made to demonstrate what our values are and what equality and inclusion looks like in a nation. I also wanted to address an earlier concern because I've been attending some of the equity and inclusion meetings, and I heard people saying, hey, we need to not just focus on the LGBTQ community. And one thing that I've just loved and seen by attending town committee meetings is the level of work that's being done, both to support the neurodivergent community, of which we have a large population of neurodivergent folks in our community, and the amount of work that we've done as a community to support folks, to raise an awareness around both the different months that I think it was Women's History Month, and I think the other months I'm aware of where we also celebrated Black History Month. So there's been a real intentionality about looking at a wide diversity of groups that have been marginalized throughout US history and raising up those voices every month of the year. It's not just a focus on the LGBTQ community in June. So thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Jamie. And I second your dismay at some of the conversations that have been taking place, comments that have been raised here. And I just want to reiterate to the public that because we live in a country that does celebrate the First Amendment, there's not much I can do to shut that conversation down other than to make sure that we all raise our voices in opposition to those statements. So thank you for doing that. Laura?
Thanks. I just want to add that the plus in LGBTQ actually stands for, it represents other sexual identities, including pansexual, asexual, and omnisexual. It is the accepted and inclusive way to refer to the queer community, who can be grouped by one common theme, the fact that they don't identify as straight or cisgender. Nowhere in there is it identified as pedophilia. No.
Thank you. And I just also want to mention that pedophilia, if it's acted on, is an illegal act, regardless of who does it. So I just want to make sure that we're not, that people realize that this is not a pathway to permissiveness on preying on our children. And if it was, then I would be concerned as well. But I know for a fact that it is not. Mr. Fairman.
Madam Chair, first I want to congratulate you on your master class in chairing a meeting about such an issue, which has come up more than once this evening. Anyone who wants to learn how to do this should watch the video. I can say I have some experience in meetings, and I've never seen better than what you did. I would simply offer this additional suggestion as a parliamentarian, and that is that standard rules of order allow the person chairing the meeting to rule out public discussion that is not germane to the actual item that is currently being discussed on the agenda.
Thank you,
That actually is a limitation to the First Amendment, and it is one that is perfectly legal and perfectly constitutional. In a given conversation under parliamentary rules, the agenda says, now we're going to talk about this agenda item, and that is what we're going to talk about. And once we've disposed it, we will talk about other agenda items, and there probably will be a time when people can bring up things that weren't on the agenda. In fact, if you have such a thing at the beginning of your meetings and at the end. But on a particular agenda item, you are free to say that is not germane. So I'm moving on to the next speaker. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Furman. So I have Swift.
I just wanted to share, I don't know how relevant it is because it's not the formal policy right now, but some of the language that will be in the policy, and I don't know if it's something you can adopt today, like you could adopt a portion of this today to support you for, I'm saying 3 months, and I feel like we could do it. And some of the very city policy exists, it's here, we could take a portion of it, and I don't know, it's not in front of you, so I don't think you would adopt it today, but I just want to share some of the language. There's some species of there was 6 factors that a flag has to be, and that is either a U.S. or Vermont flag, a flag representing an organization dedicated to the public good for the citizens of Putney. So the examples we've given are not dedicated to public good. Representing a national, state, or city interest. Flag is a historic American flag. Well, there we go. Historic American flag. It continues to have a primary positive message.
Nice save.
It does say. It says whether the flag is a historic American flag that continues to have a primary positive message of American history and unity. So I don't get that when we begin to it's not that. Promotes unity and community with another state or city or country or other jurisdiction, and represents positive interest or value worthy of public recognition, and does not promote election-related activities, use city property to publicly criticize, ridicule, or disparage or defame any person, or discriminate against person basis of race, national and cultural orientation, sexual orientation, spectrum. Sorry, that goes on the list of people we don't discriminate against, or local law. So that's a bit that's a 6-bullet what we would want flags to go from. I know you have, that's the first year hearing it, seeing it. I didn't read it in its entirety. I don't know what's possible today to fly the flag for the month, but I definitely am leaning on this piece of, I think it's worth any conflicts that come up to do this as an action today.
Okay, so we definitely cannot adopt a flag policy today because
No,
it's not in front of us, and the public hasn't had a chance to weigh in, so we can't do that.
I'm not saying that, I just mean for this flag.
But we can move to fly the flag for the month of June.
We could if we felt that it was
Okay,
necessary.
I'm gonna move that we fly the LGBTQ flag for the month of June.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to fly the LGBTQIA+ flag for the month of June. Is there further discussion among the board? Is there comments in the room about the flying the flag? Karen?
Can you repeat where they're flying and how they're flying? Are they on a pole? Are they?
Well, we discussed that. So, so the recommendation was. Okay, the recommendation was that we fly it.
The library,
Town Hall, Putney Central, in the fire
Putney Central, we have nothing.
Yeah,
Putney Central.
Right, but I was just saying it's part of the recommendation.
Yeah.
All right,
So for the town, it would be the town hall, the library, and the fire department. Last year, we discussed not flying it on the actual flagpole and putting a flagpole somewhere else.
So that would mean 3 flagpoles and 3 flags?
Well, it definitely would need 3 flags. Whether we,
Right, it seems unreasonable to expect us to put up 3 flagpoles
Right.
before tomorrow, and hang 3 flags. I would propose that we, I don't know what it takes to, maybe, do you have a suggestion, Swift, about where to hang a flag, if we were to hang it?
There's a flagpole on the road right now in front of Town Hall. Or there's like one of the, it has a US flag for Memorial Day on it. I'm not sure what the plan is for when those come down.
The telephone pole.
oh, the telephone pole?
Oh, telephone.
It's on a telephone pole, yeah.
Well,
Those could be possibilities.
those are Green Mountain Power poles, so I had to get permission to put American flags up. So I'm not,
Last year you had recommended some place, was it that spot? You said there is another place to hang a flag on Town Hall, Karen, last year.
I'm thinking like a little flag post and we can put it by the front doors, but only people who come to Town Hall would see it.
Are there similar if we wanted to go the Green Mountain Power route, are there similar they go all the way down to those structures, do they go all the way down?
Yeah, there's flagpole holders on all the poles, right?
All the way down to the fire department?
Fire department to Basketville, there's 32 flags.
Okay.
That we would have
I'm
to
up
get,
for
I mean, I don't,
that use.
We'd have to get somebody like with a ladder to
yeah,
put it up there.
we would.
So
Yeah.
Swift, what about, so are you proposing that we replace 3 of the American flags with LGBTQ plus flags? 1 in front of the town hall, 1 in front of the library, and 1 down by the fire department?
There's an edginess in that I don't want someone to resist. Like, they took down American flags to put these down. I don't know what the timeline for those flags usually to come down is. I imagine, like, that's an edgy piece of like, oh,
I would rather not,
come down, Karen.
yeah, sorry to like step over you, Swift, but I would rather not have the highway department or the fire department putting flags up every month on a telephone pole.
We're just talking about 1 month right now.
I get that,
Yeah.
but
Those are gonna stay up, those are planning on staying up through the 4th of July.
Okay, so
You know,
that's,
till fall, right? Or
what,
The
our
American
American flags.
yeah, to Labor Day.
Right,
They were
so
good.
that's,
Labor
okay,
Day.
so
Those are
that's
staying in
already been
place.
decided. Where could we put a flag?
Well, there's the flagpoles that we fly the American and Vermont flag
1 flagpole.
is a possibility.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but
different-
you can't put another flag with the American and Vermont flag on one pole.
Why not?
Because it's not, I don't think it's allowed. Mr. Fairman, did you bring that up at one point?
No, I did not. I was going to offer, I should say, Madam Chair, I have not been recognized. May I ask
No,
a
you
question?
have not. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I did not, I've never spoken to this issue before, but I can tell you that all around here, you will see an American flag flying on the same lanyard with other flags, typically the state of Vermont, but not necessarily. The only proviso there is that the flag of the United States of America must be uppermost.
Yeah.
And beyond, and below that, I believe the state flag comes next, because that's the next level of government. And if the town of Putney had a flag, it would come next. But I'm not sure about that, but certainly, do they fly on the same lanyard? Sure, and certainly the United States flag must always fly topmost. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a flagpole at the library?
I have no idea.
Does anyone know if we have a flagpole at the library?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, do we have a flagpole at the fire station?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so we have 2 flagpoles in town, 1 at the town hall and 1 at the fire station. So I'm going to amend my motion that we fly the LGBTQ plus flag on those 2 flagpoles for the month.
A second.
Friendly amendment, okay. Is there further discussion on the board about that proposal?
No.
No? Is there, no, you don't want to talk about it?
There's no,
You don't have any comment on it?
I have no comment on it.
All right, any other comments on it? All right, going back to online, I have Lori, why don't you go first, and then Jamie, and then Swift.
Thanks. I was just going to suggest that you could use those 2 flagpoles, and then the front of the library is very open now that that beautiful tree is gone. So it seems like you should be able to just do like one of the little, I don't know what the mounting is called, but what you would put next to your door, you know, on one of those front pillars, and it would be very visible.
We have to get is that like the trustees would have to?
What was that? Sorry, I was looking up.
Oh, wouldn't the trustees have to okay if additional of a flagpole on the library?
What, it's a public building, so
Yeah, they don't have control over it.
they should probably be
Be notified?
invited in the conversation,
Yeah.
yes.
Right, that's why I'm going to stick with my proposal to the fire station and the town hall, which is what we can easily make decisions about.
All right. We can leave the door open for the library
Yeah.
to fly it if they want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jamie?
I wanted to clarify that that meant that it was going to be below the American flag.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I was just looking and it appears that multiple flags may be displayed from the same flagpole as long as no flag is larger than the US flag.
So larger than? Okay.
It says that other flags displayed at the US flag may be approximately equal size but may not be larger than.
Right.
And no other flags may fly above the flag of the United States.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Clarification, so American flag, Vermont state flag, and then
The
pride flag.
Yeah, which apparently has to be of equal size or smaller than the American flag.
So they're 3
Just
by
to put-
5s.
Okay. Just
Well,
to make it
ours
more
is a
comfortable.
3 by 5, but I know the fire station is smaller.
Okay.
So,
Swift?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that we're talking about the Equity Inclusion Committee specifically is talking about a specific pride flag that is more inclusive, that includes the intersex community. There's the Progress flag, which has the triangle with black and brown and trans lines included, which is not just the rainbow. And then the intersex one has a yellow part with a purple circle. So that is what we're specifically recommending. The other piece is if we're putting the library on hold and we're doing this on budget, that's something we're officially talking about today, that we purchase 3 flags. And be like, give the library, here's a flag, we recommend you hang it. And then that would be my recommendation, to include that in the purchase. If it goes forward today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Comments in the room, Emily?
First of all, I want to say that the American flags are beautiful, and I think you've come to a good idea about sharing flagpoles with these others. And I also want to thank the comments to clarify what the plus is, and I also would request that people be accepting that I'm bringing up difficult discussions, and there hasn't been, as you said, a woman's flag for Women's History Month, and there's our the trans issues come up against the women's issues in sports. So these are difficult discussions that we're having, and I'd like to be not maligned for bringing them up, and I'd like to be able to bring them up, and I'm thankful that you have recognized me, and I'll work harder not to interrupt that.
Okay, thank you. Are there other comments online? Is there further discussion among the board? Swift?
I just wanted to clarify very clearly one more time, because I heard Karen be like, but this, what about next time we go to, like, I don't want to do this every time. let's really be clear, this is just for June, just for 2023, and we are gonna get you a policy that is very clear, has the wheres, has the house, has the money, like, so I want to just to not be overwhelmed about that.
Okay. Yeah, you're on record now as saying you're getting us a policy in 3 months.
We heard it.
We heard that. Karen?
So I just wanted to make one comment, so I did look it up, and Jamie was right. It does state, as long as it's in a particular order, you can have a third flag on a flagpole.
Okay.
So,
I suspect you can have as many flags as you want going all the way down to the ground as long as they don't touch.
I'm glad it would be the first one, you know, goes.
Be easiest to put up.
Yes, it'll come down, you know, easier than the other two.
Has there been, excuse me, a second to your motion, Peg?
Yes.
Yes, there has been, yes. It's been laid on the table. Comments in the room?
Yes, I wanted to thank you so much for clarifying that pedophilia is in no way acceptable. I think it's important to put that front and center, and if you want to put this on your on the website about that we're flying the flag, I think it's really important because since we do have that much activity in the U.S., there are obviously some people partaking in it quite a lot. So it's very important for communities to be wholesome enough to define that it's not okay with them, to push back against whoever it is that are doing that activity. And the U.S. is the biggest hotbed of it. So thank you so much for clarifying that, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Jamie?
I was just reflecting on one of my favorite basketball players' recent comments. Brittany Griner had been detained in Russia, and she's a Black lesbian, and the United States government recognized that she was a political pawn in what's happening probably between Russia and Ukraine and the US. And when Brittany came home, to recognize that the United States leveraged resources for a Black lesbian woman, when you think about the marginalization that Black people and the LGBT community has experienced throughout time and space, to see this moment in US history. And it just really was profound to hear Brittany talk about standing taller, looking at the US flag and what that means. And as a queer woman, it was really important to me that we are, that the US flag is in a really critical position, and that we recognize that the rights that many of us have worked for decades are linked to our national identity. And they have huge impacts on whether or not I can be with my wife when she dies in a hospital, whether or not my children can be seized from me at the border of a state. There are many, many rights that have significance to Putney families that are just, they're huge, and they are protected in the United States of America. So I just want to name that it means a lot to me to have US flag and the LGBTQ flag side by side, and that other people within this community are reflecting on these hard-fought rights. So thank you for taking time to have this discussion and take this vote.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there further discussion among the board? Is there any other further comment online? Any comments in the room? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Thank you all.
So the next thing that we have here is the sidewalk grant request. This is request. Sorry, Sue.
Oh, it's been a wonderful conversation. I'm glad I was here for this one. Thank you for the time. I do have a much more pedestrian type of topic here at this point. When I last spoke with you, the planning commission was recommending and you accepted going for a grant to implement phase 1 of the Putney Landing pedestrian walkway proposal. We have done some research and found that in fact there is a grant opportunity available June 9th. We thought it was going to be in the fall, and then we know it's actually very soon.
Okay.
And so I'm here to give you also an updated budget because I just read the grant application today and saw that they had to include other costs that were not in the engineering estimate that we received from the firm that did the scoping study. So let me give to you this update. And sorry for the short notice. We were doing our research and this came to me today.
That's how grants work, I think, these days.
There you go. Thank you. There you go. All right. And there's another one, Emily, if
Thank you.
read it. So the initial project cost estimate that we received with the study is that the construction cost with contingency for 2027, which is the year recommended for the cost, because costs get inflated every year, it's $170,000, and the engineering design phase, construction phase was $50,000 total and $7,000 right away. Total cost of $227,000. That's what I understood to be the total cost of the project. In reading through the grant application, they said, in addition to those costs, you must include, and I should have thought of this, project management costs. And the grant gives guidance that typically the project administration, engineering, municipal project manager cost, somebody who would oversee the project for the town, is typically 25% of the construction costs. And that you need to have a construction inspector, and that cost is 15% typically of construction costs, is the guidance they gave. So I did the math and came up that the additional cost is about $79,250 for those two required elements. You can't come in with a proposal without including the project management costs, which actually makes perfect sense. So the total project cost for phase 1 to the sidewalk that will go from Putney Landing up through Old Depot Road to the banks with a crosswalk coming to the main sidewalk and then crossing the street to the library. That's the pathway, that's phase 1. So the total cost is $306,250. Look at as good as you are, Karen. Battling that off. And so the grant will pay 80% of the cost. That's good. That's about as best we're going to ever see in any kind of funding. And 20% would be the Putney town match. When I last presented this to you, I thought the town match would be $42,000 because I thought the cost was $227,000. So we would need to have a match of $61,250. So that's almost $20,000 more than what I mentioned to you before. It is still probably our best option for doing the sidewalk, getting this 80% of the cost covered. It's actually federal money through the state that will cover the cost. So what we need, and I learned about this at 4:30 today, so I didn't have time to write a letter of recommendation for you, for the select board. But what we need is the select board to approve the project with this match of $61,250, and also to note in the letter that the town would take care of the maintenance of the sidewalk once it was built, which is standard. You've done that for other sidewalks here, but we would have to include that in the letter. Okay. So I would ask that you consider this and approve a motion tonight that would support a grant proposal to V-Trans in the bicycle pedestrian FY23 grant program to do the Putney Landing sidewalk as recommended and approved in the recent study that I gave to you. And then with the intention to provide this match and to do the sidewalk maintenance.
Okay, so when last we met, we were talking about two different grants. One would be construction, the other one would be design, but this actually covers both.
It does all of
That
it.
makes a lot more sense.
It makes a lot more sense, and the time frame is really perfect for us. And we might even have the chance to bring the costs in a little bit lower because we could get the construction started sooner. The grant will be selected this summer. And when we look at the selection criteria, we check every single box very highly for this project. So the likelihood of funding, I think, is very high, and we'll be able to go get bids to do the design phase and get that going so that we could be done maybe by 2027. I mean, it's possible to imagine that. So that's why we would do it now. Yep.
Question. In the last conversation we had, we kind of ended on this note of, well, what about just taking it only as far as the Laura Plant House and not all the way down Old Depot Road? And it seemed to me in that conversation, it was like, we can make that decision down the road. Is this where we have to make that decision? Like,
yes, it
this
is, because we won't meet the criteria.
If we don't take it all the way down
That's right.
the road.
So connecting it to a bus stop, where buses are stopping, is important. You get points for that. Connecting it to the main sidewalk network is important. And increasing safety and crossing the highway is important. So we would not get as many points, and I don't have a construction estimate to do a partial project.
Right.
The phasing is to potentially do another sidewalk coming up from Putney Landing, coming up along the road, but we decided to put that off because there's well, first of all, you can do it in phases, A, and B, we have a larger conversation about what to do with the intersection there of Route 5, Putney Landing Road. Because we know that it's not safe and not a good arrangement. And if we do a sidewalk, we might have to undo portions of that if we don't have the overall concept.
Do them in the right order.
So doing this phase 1 that was recommended gets us, it takes it to the whole network, gets us to public transportation both sides of the road. And that's what was recommended in the study. So, and this is what the select board actually had adopted as one of its preferred options over the 2 options. So,
You're messing
I can't see from behind. My mother told me she had eyes in the back of her head, and I never really understood that. She had mirrors in the room. That's what it was about. Thank you. You couldn't speak up. So busy about
You were on a
sidewalk.
roll.
I was. All right.
So you
Another
mentioned,
question.
okay, so you mentioned maintenance costs.
That's right.
That we would have to put that in the proposal?
No.
No.
We just have to commit that a town would maintain the sidewalk.
In what world would we not do that?
That's a good question, but they just need to know that if they provide construction funding, that in fact it would be used and maintained.
Okay, so does that have to be part of the
letter?
Letter?
The letter that I will draft to you will include support for the grant proposal to V-Trans for this phase 1 project, totaling $306,000, $250, and that you would provide a match of the $61,250.
Okay, and Karen, this might be a question for you. Is there any way to do that in kind, or is this beyond the purview of the highway department?
Yeah, it's,
So we'd probably contract it out to somebody.
we would have to contract it out to,
So there's no opportunity for in-kind work here?
no.
Okay.
What about the easement between the banks? Has that even been discussed
That's
yet?
included, there's a right-of-way budget.
So we haven't even talked to them yet whether that's even a possibility.
I believe there were some initial conversations about it, so it's not that it's news. Has there been an agreement? No. That would be part of the project.
Yeah, that's part of the process.
There has been a fairly robust conversation for everybody affected about this. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why it would be funded. Has there been a public discussion and input? And there has been. There's been a couple of hearings and a lot of other outreach.
Great.
Okay, so, before I open it up to the public, does somebody want to make a motion? Are we making a motion on the letter?
I'm making a motion, I'm sorry that I couldn't write it.
It's okay.
The motion would be 1, to support the grant proposal to V-Trans
Okay.
for the Phase 1
Yeah,
Putney Landing sidewalk. And 2, to provide the grant match of $61,250.
okay.
And 3, agreeing to maintain the sidewalk once it's built.
Okay. So somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay.
Oh, there's a one, I'm sorry.
Second.
Oh, Peg, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's good. So, so it's been moved and seconded to 1, support the grant, 2, provide the match, and 3, commit to maintaining the sidewalk.
Once it's been built.
It's been built. Okay. So that's the motion on the table. Is there further discussion among the board?
Yes, I would like to know, when we will need to spend that $61,000.
It could happen in fiscal year, part of it, well, I don't know actually the full mechanics of it, but you should be prepared to pay at least some of it in fiscal year 24, the next one beginning in July, assuming that you would engage a firm to begin before July of 2025, right? To begin design work. So the money that we had talked about for this, that you could access, was the sidewalk maintenance fund. We have one. That hasn't been used, and last I heard from Karen, it had about $80,000 in it. So that was a source of funding that Karen actually had recommended possibly using as the grant match.
So that's a fund for maintenance, and we're proposing to use it for construction?
Well, we don't have a policy.
Okay.
We don't have a policy on how to use those funds.
Right.
It is for maintenance. No policy, so.
We do have to state the source of the money, you know, that the town has the money in a fund. Or, you know, if you, and they also want to be clear that you're not using federal money as a grant match. I know that,
What do you mean?
I do know that, well, usually if you have federal funding, you can't, this is a federal grant.
Yes.
So you can't use federal money for a match typically. What that means for ARPA is a different
I was
question.
gonna ask, yeah.
I attended a meeting where I listened to a number of speakers, including the Vermont League of City and Towns, who has been studying this issue and has a big website. And they recommend actually using ARPA money for matches like this. It is not subject to the usual constraints. But the grant proposal, which I read, said make sure you know you can do that. Now the Vermont City, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns says it can be used for that and actually strongly encourages it. In the meeting that I attended last week, the Economic Summit, the Southern Vermont Economic Summit. So it's another option to use that. I know that you also have questions about how you're going to use the ARPA money.
Yeah,
That's up in the air.
we're
so it's
getting
another question.
closer, but we're not there
You're
yet.
not there right now.
So if we were to identify the sidewalk maintenance fund and then turn around and use ARPA money later, would that somehow mess us up in the grant?
I think what you can do in a situation like that, if you have a grant awarded, you can make a grant amendment to request that you use a different source of funding.
Okay. Or alternatively, we could replenish the sidewalk fund with ARPA money.
There's other ways you can do that, as a matter of fact. So yes, I've done a number of federal grants, and you can make those changes. It does take some administrative time to make those changes. I think they want to just make sure that it's an appropriate source of funding.
There's other questions or comments among the board? Before I open it up to the public. Elizabeth? Elizabeth?
Yes, I'm here. I just, again, want to speak up about this. I think it's a waste. There is an existing sidewalk in front of Laura Plante's house, and it could qualify for all those things and connect there. Most of the traffic is generated from the bank right in that little corner where I live. And people learn how to ride their bikes and walk in the middle of the road. Lower Old Depot Road is quiet and a nice little neighborhood. And there's gonna be additional costs that have not been discussed, like easement, movement of Christine Tuck's fence. Pretty much everyone on Old Depot Road is not happy with this and does not feel it's necessary, and it will be disruptive.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to say it's not something that really should be prioritized when the Alice Hallway Drive, Carol Brown, the old Route 5 is such a bigger walking place with lots of seniors and the walking group. And we also have the issue in front of the diner in Christian Square, where we have so many more people going in and out, and that we are focusing our energies on and money on something that is really not necessary. But getting those kids safely to the Lower Plants House, everyone in our little neighborhood here fully supports. And a crosswalk with a little bit of sidewalk, like Peg, thank you for referring to that recommendation earlier. And I do appreciate, Susan Coakley, all your work on this. But at this time, I do feel sidewalk grant money could be spent better in other locations in the town that have far more need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Furman.
Madam Chair, first, my compliments to our planning commissioner for her and their excellent work in this matter. I have two questions. The first one probably would be for our town manager. When other sidewalks that are along town highways are plowed by the town of Putney Highway Department, wouldn't a new sidewalk along another town highway also be plowed by the town of Putney Highway Department?
That is correct.
Thank you. Now, my other question would be to our planning commissioner, just to clarify one thing. You of course have referred to a sidewalk along Old Depot Road. Could you please tell us, I'm simply saying this didn't come up. Could you please tell us where are the southerly and northerly ends of this sidewalk along Old Depot Road?
Well, they are the ones that we presented in the last meeting. This is no different than what we have discussed. And I'm afraid that I don't have the map with me right now, Mr. Herman, to give a very specific location of where it begins and ends. But there's a walkway from the Putney Landing housing that is currently a gravel-based, and you've talked about that one yourself, and then it would go, I guess that's north, when you turn north up there and connect onto Old Depot Road, and then come up that way to the point of the banks, if that can be a reference point, and the right-of-way would be largely between the two banks, if that would give you a good idea of where it would be.
Roughly opposite of the Laura Plant's house.
Roughly opposite of that, and then it would cross over to the Wonder.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Fairman?
It does, Madam Chair, and it confirms my understanding that it will extend not into the laneway, which is private property, but from the laneway where it comes out on Old Depot Road up to the new sidewalk through the easement. So I don't know. At this point, I guess the question is, do we get the money? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's always that. Elizabeth, you still have your hand up. Did you have something else to say?
I'm also wondering if there's the moving of the poles, the utility poles, as Justin was on earlier from Green Mountain Power. If you're going to persist to move forward on this, that you excavate deeper and bury all the power lines at the same time and actually be efficient.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that is one of those details that will come in the construction design Eastwood Fund, and I think, Elizabeth, that's a very good idea to, once you're moving them, why don't you move them underground?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a very good point, and you just heard Justin saying that he's trying to make sure that the reliability of power is improved, so, good point.
Yep, I wholeheartedly agree on
I
that.
think anytime poles are being moved, maybe you can move it underground.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Karen?
So I do have one question, and I don't know if you can answer it now, Sue, but, so when we start talking about, like, at construction time, if you're ripping up a paved road, obviously that's gonna cost more money.
That's right.
Because you're not burying lines underneath the sidewalk.
That would be another thing, and I don't know how Green Mountain Power does that. I mean, they were talking about it's their cost to dig up the dirt road.
The dirt road's different because you have water lines and water mains
Right,
down through there.
Yeah, we got all the, municipal.
Right, so again, I mean, I think that's just generally true of putting power lines underground, as a general thing, not to this particular project. This project didn't anticipate putting lines underground because that hasn't been the policy. We just heard about it this evening, and I think everybody's happy to hear that. But it will take a long time and it will be expensive. Now, what would Green Mountain Power say about putting this underground? I don't know. I mean, they would have to, be consulted, but I think I would say that when the construction design phase comes, bring it up and see what they say.
I mean, it sounded to me as though he was trying to be proactive with other projects that are going on with other companies as well. And so if there's, an opportunity to lay it all down at once, in the long run, it's probably less expensive to do it that way than build everything and then tear it up later.
Right.
So.
Yeah, replacement at time of maintenance or change is a great time to do things.
Yeah.
Now, whether they can do that or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that can certainly be brought up.
Okay. Further questions or discussions among the board? I still have two hands up. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, as the gentleman from GMB mentioned earlier, they own the poles up where he was talking about. Chances are they also own the poles on Old Depot Road. But he also mentioned they're consulting with Comcast and with Consolidated Communications.
Right.
Because actually, if they were going to put the power line underground there, they would also have to put the telecommunications lines underground, or there would still be poles there.
Yep.
So this may be a wild card that our planning commission could ask about. Is how would Consolidated and Comcast be on board with going underground there? Because if they're not, I know, being ex-telco, that this could easily create considerable conflict between these public utilities. Thank you.
Yes, and Mr. Fairman, you're reminding me, I can hear Pitt Bannister's voice in my ear right now saying those are owned by the telephone company, those poles.
Oh,
so I believe that's what I remember him, because this question was actually asked at the last meeting.
They're owned by the telephone company, not the power company.
They're not owned by the power company, but as Justin was saying, they have these conversations all the time because they face the same problem of storms and trees and poles coming down and disruption of service. So again, I think everybody still has the same interest of moving it underground, but I think I do remember that Bannister was saying those are owned by the telephone company.
That's interesting, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Just interesting conversation, but I don't think that these things are gonna impact our decision based on the motion that's in front of us. So I encourage us to ask them down the road, but
okay. Thank you for bringing us back on track.
Yes.
I do have one more comment, Elizabeth.
I encourage you to amend the design to simply end it at 27 Old Depot Road where there is sidewalk, and reduce the overall cost to the town, and later on it could be added on to But at this time, I really don't think that we have a lot of extra wiggle room in our budget. And this is an unneeded expense with not enough pedestrian traffic to justify it at this time. If you were to take it all the way down Old Depot Road, I want to make sure you know that everyone in our neighborhood will be writing letters, and we're very concerned that it's going to be quite a disruption for what is basically a dead-end, quiet area.
Okay, thank you. So if your neighbors are that concerned, I encourage them to come to select board meetings and actually write those letters, because so far,
Oh, we will.
thank you. So far, we've only heard from one person on that road. Is there any other discussion in the room? Are there any other public comments online? Is there further discussion among the board? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye. All in favor?
All in favor of the motion on the table?
The motion that I made, which was seconded
Do you
by
want it?
Peg.
Do you want to hear it again?
No, that's why I said so moved. Do I have to repeat it?
No.
I don't think so. I didn't think so.
So I said, okay, so all in favor on the motion on the table? Aye.
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 Okay, I have 3 ayes. All opposed?
Opposed.
I'll say opposed.
Okay, so it's 3-2. Motion carries. Okay, so who's writing?
My next step is I will prepare a letter, I will give it to Karen,
Okay.
unless you would suggest otherwise. Do you want me to give it to the select board directly? I'll draft a suggested letter.
Yeah, because I'm out next week.
Okay, I'll get it around to all of you.
Yeah.
Okay, when is it due?
It's due the
Ninth,
9th,
which is
so I will
Friday.
get this letter written tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we all have to sign it before the 9th.
It can be signed, I would say, by the chair
Right.
to note that this was approved at a duly noticed meeting.
Yeah, okay. That
So
sounds
I
fair.
think that would be sufficient. We don't need to collect signatures, I think.
Yeah, so if you work with Eileen, vice
Yeah, I can-
versa.
Yeah,
I think we can do that.
send it to me electronically.
And
I'll
you'll
print it
get
out.
copies so you can see it in your inbox
Okay.
when you get back.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Very
So,
good. Thank you for your time,
Thank you.
and I'm
Yes.
sorry that it was such a last minute thing. We just
It's okay.
learned this today.
Okay. Okay, so the next piece is other business, closing comments, and SB addenda. So are there closing comments among the board? Are there any comments, closing business, closing comments, other business among the people online? Okay, comments in the room. Emily?
I'm really thankful for our town. I want to encourage everybody to grow as much food this summer as you can. And I think we're heading into some very new and difficult times, and I'm confident that we can, with preparation, we can keep more peace here. And that's what I'm after. And I thank you.
Okay.
I love you all. I'm sorry for bringing up difficult stuff, but that's who I am.
All right, thank you for coming. Okay, so the next, we're not having an executive session, right?
No.
Okay, so our next meeting is, regular meeting is June 14th, 2023, here at 5:30 and on Zoom. And can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, everyone.